I'm Angela Morton, and we're here today to talk about a new series called Recovery Is. It's part of a grant project through the Rural Communities Opioid Response Program, which has been funded for Northwestern Pennsylvania, rural areas, and we aim to increase treatment, prevention, and recovery supports in Northwestern Pennsylvania. So I'm here today with a couple of amazing women who I love working with. And so I work on this grant project leading a group of entities who are partnering with us to bring lots of great things to our area. And I'll start by introducing Amanda. Tell us about you.
Hi, Angela. So sure, my name's Amanda Johnson, and I'm fortunate to be a part of this grant project professionally, linked by my employer, Beacon Health Options. So we manage the care of many individuals in rural Northwestern Pennsylvania. So that is my role within this project. But today, I think we're going to talk a little bit about my own personal recovery, and we'll get to that shortly, right? And I'm going to go ahead and allow Mandy to introduce herself.
Well, hi, everyone. I would agree. I'm with two amazing women that I also love working with, and I am Dr. Mandy Fauble. I am the Director of Clinical Care Services at UPMC Western Behavioral Health at Safe Harbor. We are a community mental health center in Erie. We also have an office in Venango County that's new for us, and we're part of the larger UPMC system. But some of what we do is employ some of the staff that work on this grant. And then we also provide a lot of services to individuals living with substance use disorder on their path to recovery, as well as many folks that are experiencing mental health concerns. So thanks for letting me be here.
It's great to be here with both of you. So we're going to talk, we'll just kind of segue right into Amanda. You had said that today, really, we all work together professionally and have that great relationship, but you also bring a special perspective and an understanding with your own recovery. So let's start with, what does recovery even mean? We talk a lot about substance use, and a substance is anything that drugs or alcohol that could potentially be used or misused. And so when people enter recovery from substance use, what does that mean? What is recovery?
So yeah, I think there are a lot of definitions out there, right, that guide us into understanding what recovery is, what it looks like for certain people. But by and large, recovery is just a daily choice, right, to abstain or from illicit drug and alcohol use, essentially. And for me personally, I've been on this journey since 2009. I had a very tough relationship with opioids and alcohol in my past. So I have to make a choice daily, right, to show up and choose a path not to use alcohol or other drugs. And I have to do that in a variety of different ways. And I'm fortunate because the work that I've chosen professionally really has allowed me the opportunity to take some of that personal experience and blend it into my professional everyday work, which is really unique. And I'm also just a really tireless advocate for those who are in recovery to speak up and share their stories professionally, because I think that that's one of the greatest challenges for us that work in very professional roles is that we're silenced, and we don't want to share that part of us for fear of judgment, or that we won't get promoted, or that we'll be looked at like we can't do our work, or if we don't do something well, it's because, oh, that's because she's just another addict or something like that, right? But I'm here today to tell you that it's okay to talk about being in recovery professionally. And I think that it's not only just okay, but I really hope that others sort of join together and band together to start to spread the message that we do get well. We do live fulfilling, meaningful lives. We advance professionally. We have families. We have friends. We're not just sucked into that part of our lives that may have been very dark for some of us. So I'm very, very fortunate to be a person in recovery and to share this story with you today, and in whatever aspects make sense for us to talk about. So that was a really long answer.
It was a beautiful answer, because I wanted to say thank you and yes so many times that I thank you for your courage in talking about it, because it's at the core of everything we do. If we're going to increase treatment, access to treatment for people who need it, and recovery supports and prevention education. If we're not talking about it, then all of those things can't really happen. So at the very core of everything we do is more of these conversations, more of that kind of honesty, less judgment, reducing of stigma. And we can talk in a minute about that too, like what exactly is that and how does it impact a person's path? So Mandy, I'd like to
add something. Yeah, I mean, just when I'm listening to Amanda talk about recovery, I can't help but think about people in my life who have recovered from a whole lot of things, not just drug and alcohol concerns, but mental health concerns, or even when you think about your loved one who goes to have surgery and there's this time period of recovery. And what I love about it is that it's a very positive way of thinking about healing, but the word in and of itself implies that it's a process. It's not something that just like you flip a light switch and then it's all or nothing. I love the fact that recovery really truly implies that it is a journey. And I appreciate that you talked about making healthy choices to promote your recovery every day. I think who can't relate to that, you know, with anything in their life. And when you put it that way, it helps people understand that everyone is in some type of a process where they're just trying to improve their overall health and well-being. And recovery might be a specific word or concept we use when we're talking about specific choices that people are needing to make or specific things that people are dealing with. But I really like that 100% of us, whatever our relationship with substance use disorder, 100% of us can relate to needing to make choices every day to promote our health and well-being.
Absolutely. And I like how that came together, that you started that. And Mandy, that question was so connected with the first thing that Amanda said about making the choice every day to show up and continue to stay on this path that is your recovery. And do you mind telling us about your own recovery, like some of your path from active addiction and substance use to the place where you are today?
Sure. So, I think that something's really that is really relevant right now that a lot of us that work in the healthcare field are talking about is the term equity, right? So when I think about that, to me, that means everybody gets an equal start in life, right? Like we all start from the same place and we get those same opportunities. So for me, as a child, I was one that was born into poverty, very, very poor family, very young parents, didn't really know how to parent. They were just kids themselves and didn't really do a lot to support me as a child. And I experienced a lot of adverse trauma through my childhood. I didn't have that starting point that everybody else, that a lot of other people have, right? So I pull that in because I think that has not a lot to do with my journey towards active addiction that I experienced, as well as my path towards recovery as well. Because whenever I did finally find myself at a point in my mid-20s after having used drugs and alcohol very, very heavily for well over a decade at that point, I didn't know how to be an adult in my mid-20s because I didn't learn from anybody. So once I made the cognitive choice that, okay, I can't live like this anymore, I'm pretty much gonna die or be in jail for the rest of my life, because during that time frame, I had multiple encounters with the justice system. I had done some time in jail and figured that, well, I guess this is gonna be my life. I'm either gonna die or I'm just gonna be in and out of jail forever. But then when I got to that point in my mid-20s, I actually found myself pregnant with my daughter, not intentionally, and that was my motivating factor, right? And I made the decision right then and there that whatever it takes, like I need to get my life together. So from that point forward, I entered treatment. I didn't know what was available, and which is another reason that I'm so invested in this project and getting education out there. I know for people that come from a background like myself that are in a very rural space, not knowing really what community looks like or how to even approach treatment, what's available, I had no clue where to start. So I leveraged my contacts within the justice system, believe it or not, to say that I needed some help, and they were the ones that supported me. So I went through various levels of treatment. At that time, I was going through an opioid use disorder, and so there was a significant amount of withdrawal. At that time, pharmacotherapy for opioids, which is some of us may recognize, MAT, or what are some of the other terms that we hear floating around out there?
MOUD, medication for opioid use disorder.
Yeah, that wasn't definitely in the mid to late 2000s, not a common practice. So I wasn't offered that opportunity for my experience with treatment. But I know that it saves thousands of lives, and I know that others in my recovering network have experienced it and they've had great success with it. But it just wasn't my path, right? So I went through treatment, inpatient, halfway house, miles and miles away from my home. I was really just willing to do whatever it took to become a mom for my daughter, my new daughter, right? I had sort of found myself in this life that I didn't know what to do with. I had a boyfriend at the time who's now my husband. I had, this baby on the way. I had the baby. She was here. And then it was like, oh no, I don't know how to be a real person. And I had to learn really, really quickly. But one thing that I can say about my journey is that I just went full steam ahead. I recognized that there were so many opportunities that I had to create for myself. I had to force my own pathway. I didn't get the guidance from those around me. My family wasn't super supportive. So I just went for the gusto. I went and got myself in college. I was a high school dropout. I got a GED while I was in jail. So I didn't have those experiences like, other late adolescents and those in their early 20s did. So I just went hardcore. I got an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, all within a 5-year period. And currently I'm working on my doctorate degree, some 10, 12 years later. So it's been a really fascinating journey, and one that I can say I'm just, really fortunate to work in this field in behavioral health care, because I sometimes get curious of other fields that, folks might not get such a warm welcome whenever they share their stories, right? Especially when we've experienced interactions or intersections with the criminal justice system, and how does that look to an employer? And that's something that I had to spend a lot of time talking through, because I knew that it was going to be something that was going to come up as I moved through my career and through different job opportunities. So I addressed it head on, and I just took a very proactive approach with it, and I stated my story and where I'm at. And I just made that really a part of my values, is just being transparent and being completely unapologetically 100% myself. And part of that myself is my experience that I brought with me to this time. So it's been a fun road, and I feel like it's important to also share. In 2020, when the pandemic came on, I struggled. I struggled with isolation. I struggled with my mental health conditions, because there's another side of that, not just the substance use that I have had issues with over the years. It's also mental health. So years of depression, post-traumatic stress disorder from some of those childhood traumatic experiences. I've all these things that I have to constantly be very vigilant about and proactive with my own health and well-being. But that takes a lot of work, right? And a lot of insight. And I was very aware of it throughout the year last year. And I just had to keep talking about it and being really open about it. So if there's other people that have the same experience, I just hope that we all can just find a safe space and find your people to talk to, because it's so critical. And it's not even that it was, needed to take action or do this or do that, but just that connection piece that we lost during the pandemic was really, really critical. And I struggle with that. And as Mandy alluded to earlier, this is a process. It's iterative, and it looks different every day in some cases, but the one thing that does look the same every day is that I make a conscious choice not to use drugs or alcohol. So it's been a fun path. So that was probably a really heavy story for you ladies on a morning, but here we are nonetheless. So
Well, you said
I found it hopeful. I loved it. Sorry, Angela, I think we both want to comment because this was such a great story. And I would like to just say, I hope that we hear more. Something that you touched on that I think so many people could benefit from hearing more about is getting into the workforce when you're in recovery. And also being okay, sort of owning it and overcoming or figuring out how to work with the fact that not everyone gives you that warm welcome, as you alluded to. So I feel like you just set us up for a whole series of other really great conversations to have. And I didn't feel like it was heavy at all. I feel like today's conversation makes me feel incredibly hopeful. And I guess my thought is that if there's anyone who's listening who is wondering about if there's hope for themselves or if there's hope for someone that they love, well, recovery is a real deal. And so, that's what I'm walking away with.
And you did just say so many things that we could unfold a series on all so many pieces of like recovery, being in recovery in the workforce, getting into the workforce, trauma and its impact on the potential for substance use. When we look at in the prevention world, we're looking at protective factors against substance use or the risk factors that make someone more prone to substance use, and trauma is the #1 risk factor. So not just that we talk about it and throw it out there, but maybe even do a session on trauma and how to mitigate that, how to stop the patterns of it, or to seek assistance with mental health issues that maybe are underlying. Hope, we could do a whole session on hope or on how everyone's recovery looks different. And
I think, Amanda, the bottom line is we should invite you back. And I think
love to be back.
now is a good time. We're kind of at that sweet spot of maybe just letting people know where you can get help. I mean, Amanda, you talked about reaching out in what probably felt like an unlikely spot, the criminal justice system. But I know there are lots of other places that people can get help too. And Angela, you have that phone number memorized that I don't have memorized. You're the best person to tell people where they can get help.
The national helpline is 1-800-662-HELP, the word HELP. You can also call your local drug and alcohol, your county drug and alcohol office, or somebody you trust that can help you get to those spaces or places. Reach out to a family member, a friend, a trusted person, an AA meeting, an NA meeting. So many of them are virtual right now. It's a matter of a Google search and a link that you can click and listen in. But your local county drug and alcohol office, that 800-662-HELP. We also have a website associated with our grant project called www.recoveryisnwpa.org. And we have some training opportunities, some resources for people in recovery. Somebody should stop me because I will just continue to say all of these great things that I'm so honored to be a part of. And again, for two and many more amazing people that I get to work with and convey these messages about how substance use impacts people and families and the community and society at large, and really being able to meet people in a compassionate way and with some understanding about the disease of addiction, and just to be able to create a space for people to reach out and get the help they need. Any final thoughts?
Well, I love it, but Amanda, you get the final word because you're the evidence that I think everyone needs to hear more from.
I just want to say thank you both first for the opportunity to just share this story. I am really grateful just to work with you both professionally and personally. The work that you both are doing for our rural communities is just something that's incredibly, incredibly essential. For folks that might be struggling, recovery is real. We don't have to continue to live the way that we've lived. It's out there. There are people just like you out there, and we get better together. And we will continue to support and provide resources. If you don't know, just ask anybody at your county office, even your probation officer. I will advocate for they know where to send you if that's what the position you're in. It worked for me, And I, of course, don't want that to be the first thing if there's alternatives, right? But it's available. Anybody that's out there that's willing to listen, that like Angela said, feels safe, by all means, let it out. Go find us. We're out here. We're waiting for you to join the ranks, and we're here to support along the way. So thanks, ladies, for having me.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And thanks for joining us for Recovery Is.